What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you. Kind of a bonus one. So this band I'm about to go over has been getting a lot of hype here, and I'm always kind of interested in hype bands just because I want to see what the hype's all about. And I decided to venture down this path, and yeah, this is going to be a really fun review for some of you, and maybe for the fans of this band. Maybe not. I don't know what this band's fan base is like, but I have a feeling I'm probably going to find out. So I'm going to go over the latest offering from Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. This also came out on the 19th of May on Spinefarm Records. This band formed in 2016 in London, England. This is their third album overall. And legit, this is my first time ever really listening to any of their albums. Actually, any of their songs. I know kind of what they look like. They got some, spooky masks and shit. A lot of bands have that. The only thing I do know about them is the awesome 13-second clip of them playing in a very subdued moment, and someone in the crowd rips an absolutely disgusting fucking fart. It was pretty amazing. Actually, the dude next to him, you can hear him go, dude. But that was it. And I went into this one pretty much blind, and oh man, there's a lot to unpack here. One reason is that this is over an hour long, and man, I feel like I kind of suffered through this one because this is such an odd listen, but not odd in a good way. It opens up with the song Chokehold, and honestly, the vibes I get are instantly kind of along the lines of Zeal and Ardor, which I really like that band, albeit this is not as good, to put it really nicely. That's all I can say there. Like, this big droning synths, the vocals come in, and they're notably more like R&B-ish, and that is definitely a theme on here. And R&B is even sort of a loose one. They sound like modern pop. They're very processed often. There's a fair amount of auto-tune on here. But yeah, no, it kind of starts off like a Zeal and Ardor song. Like, there's, sort of an R&B swing to it. Then it does get heavy, and the riffs come in, and they're big, bottom-heavy, droning riffs, like something you would hear a lot on modern deathcore, or even like a Meshuggah album, albeit the riffs are just kind of just big and drony and heavy, and really not much to them. But when the vocals come in on these heavier parts, often they are kind of butt rockish. Like something you would hear at, like, again, like one of the Red State Rock Fest, like Rock Loma, something like that. Like, big choruses, and they're not particularly interesting. But honestly, this was one of the tracks that I thought was pretty decent, and as this went on, oh man, it got a lot weirder. We listen to a lot of bands on here that do the whole genre hopping thing or genre bending. This band may have attempted to do that, but it comes off as genre mashing. Like, they just smashed two opposing genres together and went, bam, that's a song now. And that is all over here. Because honestly, this is like someone fucking fighting for control of the Bluetooth speaker and just playing all sorts of crazy shit at the same time, and then kind of cutting it off halfway to get into a completely different song, and then someone realizes it, and then they fucking chop it up. It's like, no, I wanted to listen to this. And it's not good. Case in point, The Summoning, one of the longer songs, and I don't know, maybe it's like their version of prog, but it starts off with big droning kind of Meshuggah riffs, and then it kind of gets into these more butt rocky verses and a big butt rocky chorus. It kind of feels like a modern deathcore act playing like a nu metal cover, and it's just not very good. But as the song goes on, it just keeps sort of bending the genres. Like, you throw in a giant deathcore breakdown, and then all of a sudden we're in this sort of proggy lead section, which it's one of the few moments in here there's actually a lead. And then you get sort of like a poppy moment in there, and man, was that fucking foretelling. Because this album seems to fucking love modern pop, and I hate a lot of modern pop, so this was particularly grating. When you get down to songs like Granite, Aqua, Regia, and DYWTY LM, which stands for Do You Wish That You Loved Me? Which my response is, no, I just wish I hadn't listened to this fucking song. These songs are just blatantly pop songs. There are barely any metal elements to them, not as though the metal elements would have really fit. It's just weird, especially again when you consider the image of the band, which, you know, they look like, you know, Spirit of Halloween attractions, but lyrically and energy-wise and song-wise, it sounds like they're channeling all the fucking dark fuckboy energy they possibly can. Like dark poetry with a little bit of ew girl, you know, kind of peppered in for good measure. It's really bad. And here's the thing with the whole genre mashing. Like, I like bands that generally mash up genres. Like 12 Foot Ninja, I think they do this style particularly well because they're all talented musicians and they have a lot of fun with the transitions. These just hit the brakes and then fucking jolt forward, wrecking your fucking neck into whatever they want to do, which honestly they don't bounce around to a lot of different genres. It's a lot of the same repeated ones kind of just rearranged on here. Or another example like Faith No More. Faith No More is hard to categorize because they've played a lot of different stuff and they do it really well. But again, songwriting really plays into it, and these songs really aren't that lavish when you consider it. In fact, they take the most basic elements of all the genres they like to mash up, and, well, it comes off dull. It just sounds like, yeah, you just kind of like heard a couple of pop songs or a couple of metal songs, like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I really have no, you know, passion for either of these, but why not do it? Also, I have this mask and I'm gonna put some body paint on and look at my shroud, and I am so fucking spooky right now, right? Seriously, after I listened to this album, I felt like I had listened to, God, Breaking Benjamin, Motionless in White, Bad Wolves, Justin Bieber, Depeche Mode, and even like some Periphery and Meshuggah all at the same time, and none of it was good. And honestly, when it did have like moments that were all right, I feel like I already had to suffer through some other little bit, like Ascensionism, which I don't think is actually a word. It might be. I don't care. The song has some decent moments, but they're towards the end after you have to suffer through this really bad pop section to lead it off. And I know it's supposed to be dark and dreary, but it doesn't capture that. It just sounds like, girl, I really need to get in them pants, but also, do you like my dark poetry that I've been writing since high school? Lyrically, there are so many just bad pop platitudes and, I don't know, like forced edginess. Like there are some like growled sections and scream sections, but it doesn't necessarily feel like very metal. It feels more like, you know, maybe like one of the heavier bands that would show up on Warped Tour. They were like, you know, like the heavier screamo act. They're generally very muffled and they're used very sparingly. A lot of this is clean vocals, and I mean, honestly, the dude's voice isn't bad, but there's a lot of effects on it. Like there's definitely moments of auto-tune, there's like robotic filters occasionally, and weird vocal inflections. Like I know they're from the UK, but some of this just feels like it's hammed up for the sake of hamming it up. Like instead of saying back, it's bailk, or instead of silence, they say Shylens or something like that. Like it's just hammed up like I'm trying to accentuate the word and make it sound extra fucking fancy and maybe mildly fuckable, I guess, because I mean there's again a lot of fuckboy energy on this. I think there's even a section where the word is got but it comes out as gort. I don't know. Honestly, there are some moments like lyrically I don't mind, especially the song Are You Okay? It's about talking to, you know, a friend who's going through whatever they're going through, a dark patch in life, and you know, just talk to them because you want to make sure your friends are all right. It feels like a very earnest song. Like, I like the message on it. Musically, that song is just like bland butt rock, though. Like, there's really nothing to it. Like, you can find these same elements in any Breaking Benjamin song and any Creed song. Hell, you could probably find them in a Five Finger Death Punch song, but honestly, it feels a little bit more earnest here. And, well, I mean, Five Finger Death Punch still wins the whole cringe circus. They're fucking still center ring and just for everyone to fucking hopefully throw bags of shit at. I also feel like a lot of these songs are really drawn out. Like there's a lot of build up to them and the payoff is very minimal. This album feels like an EP's worth of ideas stretched out to 63 minutes. Again, you have the genre bending, but they're bending the same stuff every time. They're just rearranging it. So these songs get dull really early on. In fact, by the midpoint of this album, I really wanted to turn it the fuck off and give up. But no, I'm going to suffer through this because I want the whole experience. And God, I will never get this time back. After a while, I just started writing jokes about the songs because I really wasn't getting anything new or different with each track. Like, this band seemed like they had like proggier moments where they would kind of shift around genres, like, you know, the title track kind of moves around a little bit in terms of genre bending. Again, it's the same genres, but it's arranged a little bit better, minus the cringy rapping part. And I do think Summoning aspires to be a little bit more progressive, but man, it's just a fucking disjointed mess. But yeah, by the end of this album, namely on songs like Rain and Euclid, my notes were not very nice. Like for the song Rain, I wrote down, it sounds like Elton John, but it's Drake covering Elton John. And because it's Drake covering Elton John, that means he's singing to a 16-year-old girl in the crowd. But don't worry, there's more, because I wrote down that this song sounds like an Evanescence cover, except the band covering it is Five Finger Death Punch. And, well, we all know how much they like to ruin other bands' material. And Euclid was just yet another pop nugget that morphs into a rock song. It sounds like REO Speedwagon for Beliebers, and it's dull and it fades out, and I was like, man, thank God this album is over. This is just a fucking train wreck. I think the masks that the band wears are sort of a metaphor for having no musical identity, because again, this is just a mishmash of different genres sandwiched together, and then sort of like a rinse and repeat formula on here. I feel like they explored more settings on their keyboards than they did, like, you know, actual like song construction on here, because a lot of these just feel slammed together. And to a degree, like, I know this band seems to have attracted a lot of ears in terms of like the metal circles and the hard rock circles, but I don't know if even calling them a metal band is appropriate. And I know that kind of comes off as like a little bit, you know, gatekeepy-ish, but honestly, the amount of metal on here is very minimal. I would say it's maybe a little bit more on the pop side, or like, you know, when it is heavy, it's more of like a hard rock sound. Like legit, Ghost is more metal than this band. And despite the fact that this band actually has like screams and breakdowns occasionally, they are so occasional that at least, you know, Ghost kind of hangs on to like more metal moments. I feel like this is just a band that has metal elements versus being an actual metal band, and maybe that's a little bit more fair. And I think part of the heaviness is mostly due to their image, because yeah, they look kind of spooky and ominous and mysterious, but when you listen to it, it's, I don't know, edgy fuckboy mixtape. Like, that is pretty much the vibe on this album, and this was really, really difficult to listen to. The best part of listening to this album, other than the fact that it finally ended, was nothing. I didn't really like this at all. The fart that was in the crowd during their live performance was more entertaining than I think anything on this album. So overall, I'm gonna give this 1 star. It is legit 1 star better than Five Finger Death Punch, which I didn't even give a star. This is just kind of cringy and mishmashed, and I'm sure their intentions were to do something wildly different and creative and inventive, but this just came across as just kind of mashing genres together for the sake of doing that, and not really kind of like interweaving them very well. Like, these are just slammed together songs, and it just sounds very just empty and sterile and, you know, bland. Like, there's nothing that really jumps out at you like, wow, that is really creative and inventive. They simply just take the most surface level, basic elements of every genre they mash together and called it an album, and man, it's just a chore to listen to, especially with the length of this. Again, with the amount of different ideas and different elements that are on here, this is maybe a 30-minute EP stretched out twice as long, and it becomes a chore to listen to because, man, when this album drags, it drags. The riffs are very basic. Hell, even the pop elements kind of just sound like something that's like in the background of some fucking ad that rolls through a video. Now, I imagine this band has its fans, and hey, that's awesome. Jam this album, support this band, go check them out live. I won't be there just because I never want to listen to this again. I really don't. Like, it was just terrible. I usually suggest bands that are kind of similar at the end, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, if you like this, go listen to 12 Foot Ninja. I think they do this style a lot better, and it's a lot more fun, and kind of just everything about it is better. Or just listen to some Faith No More or Mr. Bungle or Tomahawk. Like, those are like really fun, you know, genre hopping bands, and you know, they do that well. Whereas this is essentially just, you know, hashtagging literally everything in your video, that is relevant right now all at once, whether or not it has anything to do with what you're doing. That's kind of the feel of this. This is algorithm, rock, metal, pop, I don't know, whatever. And I don't like it. It's just a big fat no from me, but honestly, again, if you love them, you love them, and that's totally cool. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below at thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there, and we have our store there. We will be loading up on stuff. We do have some ideas, and it looks like we are actually, like, constructing some designs and such, so we'll just keep you informed whenever we start getting some new stuff out. And, of course, we have a giveaway going on. Once we hit 15K subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a stack of 10 CDs. All you have to do is comment on the video link down below. The video is also playing automatically on our channel. And once we hit the mark, I will do a video announcing the winner, and we'll be at 15K subscribers, which is absolutely wild. I never thought we'd get here, and here we are, knocking on the doorstep. I mean, it's really incredible. This kind of just started in my basement as just something fun to do, and, it still is fun, and we're kind of shocked at the number of people that watch it. And that is all due to you guys. You guys are our backbone. It's amazing doing this, and the overwhelmingly positive response we've gotten is really just absolutely amazing. So once again, thank you all so much, and we will catch you later.